Hey my good friend, Sam Haymart with Test Driven TV. Today we are looking at the 2021 Jeep Wrangler 4xe. That is the plug-in hybrid that's new for this year. Supposedly the most efficient one. We'll see about that. I did drive this thing all week long and I took it on a road trip up to Las Vegas. So, well, we've got a lot to talk about. All right, my friends, before we get out on the test drive, let's talk about what we've got here. This is a Sahara 4xe. Sahara is the least model that you can get the 4xe powertrain in. Starts out at $51,000. Here we have $61,000 and some change with the options and packages that this has. If you were to build a gasoline Sahara and a hybrid Sahara and try to get them to the same amount of options and equipment, there's about a $6,000 uptick over a gasoline powered Sahara. It's a little bit difficult to try to come to that because this comes standard with a lot of the items that are optional on the Sahara. A lot of that's on the interior and a few exterior things as well, starting with these wheels, 20-inch alloy wheels with a black finish. I wasn't even able to find these things on the build for a gasoline Sahara. So these are exclusive wheels to this, to the best of my knowledge. When we get up to the front, blue tow hooks, along with that full LED lighting package. And that is one of the big telltale signs, those blue hooks. And coming around the corner to the fender, another telltale sign that you're looking at the 4xe is the emblemology that has the blue and the blue back shadow. And up to the fender, you can see right there is where you plug this thing in to charge it. Pop that thing open. This comes with a standard cable charger for a 120 volt outlet that you can plug in here, plug into your standard wall outlet in your garage. It takes about 12 hours overnight or whenever you do it to charge up the hybrid battery. And that comes stored in a little bag in the trunk underneath the carpet. You can also plug it into a 240 volt level 2 charger, public or at your house. That takes about 2 hours to charge the hybrid battery. From this angle, the Wrangler 4xe continues to look pretty much like a regular everyday Wrangler. I will point out this does have the hardtop with the power folding canvas top, which I have to say I really liked having this week, given the fact that we're in the fall and the weather's just right for that kind of thing. It does make for a little bit more road noise, and we'll talk about that here when we get out for the drive, but I love it driving around town. That is just an awesome way to flip the top open as easy as it gets here in the Wrangler. Looking at the back, you can see this does have another blue tow hook. That is the telltale sign that this is the 4xe. This has the towing package, hence you can see the trailer hitch receiver down there. And in the big picture, these 20-inch black finish wheels really are the main thing that sets this thing apart visually from the rest of the Wrangler family. If you've ever sat behind the wheel of a Jeep Wrangler, you know there's literally nothing else like it. The seating position, the layout of the dash, your relationship to the dash, the windshield that you can touch, it's completely different. And so if you're not used to it, it's going to be off-putting. But I'm not going to be doing a one-on-one on the Jeep Wrangler when it comes to the interior. Today what we're talking about is what you get here when you step up to the Wrangler 4xe. In the Sahara trim grade, it is a luxury trim grade and you can option it up very nicely. And when you step up to the 4xe, a lot of those things that are optional in the standard Sahara gas are included here. And that starts with these leather seats and the trim that you see here. This has the premium leather interior with the beautiful accent stitching, particularly on the side bolstering. That really looks sharp, and that extends to the dash. You have a lot of soft trims with matching accent stitching, the steering wheel, and the shift boot. There's quite a few other upgrades here too. Some are part of packages, some are standalone options. Above me, you can see open air because this has the motorized canvas roof, which I absolutely love in this Jeep. Sitting here looking forward, standard Jeep instrument cluster with a digital centerpiece, center stack, a lot of hard controls. This does have the upgrade to the cold weather package with the heated steering wheel and heated seats. And there is the extra button here for the regen braking. Also a bank of power buttons over here for your hybrid drive modes. The switchgear I find of a very high quality. This generation Wrangler, they've done a nice job to really upgrade it because they can get quite expensive. Jeep wanted to make sure that it feels its price. These seats are for the most part very comfortable. Obviously the seating position is very upright. There is pretty decent side support. They are firm seats. I did find that after a long day's drive, I was ready to get out of them, but for most 20, 30, 40-minute trips around town, you're going to be fine. The center console here in the Wrangler is very basic. There are a bank of switches here for the windows because the doors come off. The switches are here, and there is the bank of auxiliary switches down here. This does have the tow package. Gear selector right here for the 8-speed automatic, and to the left of it is the selector for the transfer case. Cup holders down low, rubber, so you can put big cups in here. They're not going to be in your way. The parking brake is a manual lever. I'm glad they stuck with that here. And in the center console, there's a little bit more than a square Kleenex box of storage space, which is very much needed here. The one complaint I have here is there's not really a good place to put your phone. There is a slot for it right here in the cup holder, but it's not big enough to accommodate my phone with a case around it. And there's also a place down here, but the levers get in the way. So they could do a little bit more to give you a good place to put your phone where you can keep an eye on it. Like the front seat, if you've ever sat in the back seat of a Wrangler, you know it's a little bit different. And that is to say, it does feel a little bit more snug. And of course, you notice the fact that you've got a roll bar around you, and here in this case, the speakers for the audio system right in front of your face. But that said, I think the most important thing to point out here is the fact that you do not lose any headroom, especially now. But even with the roof closed, you don't lose any headroom, legroom, or any of the measurements back here because we step up to the hybrid. The hybrid battery is located underneath the seat. You can flip those up and you can see it. But the way they've designed it, it doesn't actually raise the seat to an extent that you have any changes in the overall usability back here. As you can see, I've got plenty of legroom. These seats are set for my height, about 5'9" with my boots on. And I've got a couple inches ahead of me in the way of knee room. The seating height, even though it looks high and it is high, I do still feel like I'm sitting down a little bit. And this is a firm seat. I will tell you that there is a pretty good amount of side bolstering here though, so that I feel supported. There is a fold down armrest right here with cup holders in it. You can of course put 3 across back here. Down on the center console are air vents, very important, especially at this price. The switches are also there for your power windows and plenty of power ports for whatever you might need. The rear cargo area, very sizable here in the Wrangler. These seats do fold down in a 60-40 split. You don't have a perfectly flat low floor, obviously. That battery is under these seats, and the way they fold down, you do have a bit of a step up there, but you do have that full cargo area. Underneath that rear floor is where you're going to find the cable charger stored for a 120-volt outlet. Overall, this interior I find very impressive. I like the interior of the Wrangler to begin with, and I like the upgraded trims that we have here. It really helps it feel the price. I did have a few complaints about maybe some versatility down here, but overall this is very good. This interior gets 4.5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment system here is the top of the line with the Alpine audio system. It has navigation and it has a number of features, especially some pages having to do with the hybrid power that show you the power split, what's going on, the charging, all of those things. And it allows you to review your driving history and see what kind of mileage you're getting and what the split is with the power. And it allows you to change a few settings here and there. It does have this one, the forward and rear facing cameras, but no 360 view. I do find that the audio quality is pretty good and the controls for the most part are good. I've got hard controls, volume and tuning on both sides. I love that. And there are controls on the back of the steering wheel for volume and tuning as well. I will complain about the fact that this doesn't have quite the larger screens we're starting to see in other vehicles. The Bronco, for example, does offer a larger screen, and the way this is laid out, you could see a little bit more of this map than it shows on some of the views. So this is a system that's better than most, but it could be improved on. This infotainment system gets 4 out of 5 stars. One last stop before we get out on the test drive, we've got to talk about what's under the hood because this is everything here. Jeep's hybrid powertrain in the Wrangler consists of virtually the same 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine as you're going to find in other Wranglers, but here there are 2 electric motors that assist this thing and really take it down the road as a hybrid. First of all, in the 8-speed automatic transmission, there is a 134 horsepower electric motor, very powerful, 181 pound-feet of torque all by itself. And Down in the front of the engine, you will find a belt-attached motor generator. That does a lot of different tasks, from charging the battery to starting the engine, in addition to adding a little bit of extra power here and there to smooth things out with the starting and stopping of the engine and some other things. Altogether, this makes 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot. Those numbers look really good. Now, fuel economy, this is rated at 49 mpge, which is the mpg equivalent in electric power. That's pretty good. EPA fuel economy in hybrid mode, though, is 20 mpg. That's a combined number. Okay, now it's time to take a drive, my friends. We're out here in the desert on my favorite back road. Now, I've driven this in the city all week, and I've driven it on the freeway. I took a trip from Phoenix to Las Vegas and back, so I've got a lot of driving under the belt. So here we're just going to talk about some of my impressions overall as we go along. Now, I've just fired this thing up. It has 3 drive modes down here: hybrid, electric, and e-save. Hybrid is the default mode when you start this thing up, whether your battery's charged all the way up full or not. Now, I started this morning with a full battery before I drove out here, and now we're down to about 32%. The range, it says 29 on this, but some of the materials I have say low 20s, and I really do think it just varies depending on your driving style, temperature, air conditioner on or not, and other things. Now, if you want to save this battery, like say if you're jumping straight on the freeway and you're driving a long distance and you don't want to waste your electric power there, because honestly, on the freeway, electric power is not the most efficient way to use it. So if you're taking a long trip, you can use the e-save and save that battery for stop and go driving in the city when it makes the most sense. So at this point, we're on hybrid. Now, there's also a button down on the center stack for max regen. That really helps you extend your battery life by allowing this thing to regenerate brake a lot stronger than normal. And not everybody likes that. I actually like it because I'm used to it. You get that a lot with electric cars. So when you let your foot off the gas pedal, you almost get a braking effect. But that, and it can actually bring you to a complete stop just about. And that puts a lot of charging back to your battery by doing it that way. So, without further ado, let's be on our way. Now, we're under electric power entirely at the moment, and I'm accelerating at a pretty brisk level. Okay, gas engine just came on. So the question I always like to ask in any test drive that I do is, how does it go? So let me come to a complete stop here with nobody around. We still have battery power, so we're going to get the full Monty. And here we go. Woo, kind of an interesting sound. And woo, burst to 60. This thing's got some power. And 80. Woo, I better slow down. I got a quarter coming up, and I am in a Jeep, okay? This is not a Porsche when it comes to curvy roads. All right. So this thing has a lot of power. It's a lot of power. 375 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque is a lot of power in a Jeep Wrangler. It's great on the freeway. You're going to pass that semi and get over into the fast lane. You're going to get the power you expect. That's a good thing. I like the fact that this has an 8-speed automatic transmission that is traditional in its feel and traditional in the way it behaves. You can reach over here and shift it manually like a regular Jeep Wrangler. And that really is the part that's most impressive about the system. Not only the power, but the fact that it feels like a regular, everyday Jeep. The powertrain behind this is all Jeep Wrangler. Solid axles, regular transmission, regular transfer case, all of that stuff is everything you'd expect in a regular gas-powered Jeep. So you're not giving up anything there. And you're getting the extra power. Good things. All right, refinement. The refinement of the gas engine turning on and off throughout the drive during your day, seamless. Now, there is some roughness when the battery's low and the engine's just firing up and shutting off, and it does get a little bit noisy, things like that. But they've done a good job of making the transition between gas and electric power here pretty impressive. So they get snaps for that. What this thing really fails at is being fuel efficient. Oh my God, 20 mpg. This thing is freaking thirsty. Cattle guard. Folks, if this were a gasoline model, a 3.6 or a 2.0, those are rated higher at mpg. Those are 21, 22. The diesel, 25. Here, we're rated at 20. And that's exactly what I got with it this week. absent the battery. As a hybrid, this thing is not a strong hybrid like you would get from Toyota or Lexus in their base regular hybrids. This thing sucks gas. When I went to Las Vegas from Phoenix and back, I got my first 30 miles of electric power only, and the rest of it was I'm telling you, if it was a gas engine, I'd be bitching about that. 20 miles to the gallon is horrible. It's shocking. If I spent the money for this, I'd be really disappointed. And so there you go. Maybe if they'd done a V6 with a hybrid system, would have been better. You know, that's what Toyota did for a long time, and they did mid 20s up into the 30s with their similarly sized SUVs. So there's a way to make it work with software and hardware, but Jeep just didn't do it here. This gas engine is just working too hard to carry all this weight by itself. So, you know, unless you plug it in every day and drive 10, 15, or 20 miles on electric only power, there's very little benefit to be gotten out of this in terms of efficiency. I hate to say it. This powertrain gets 3.5 out of 5 stars. When it comes to ride, drive, and handling, this is a vehicle that, well, it's a Jeep Wrangler. If you've driven Jeep Wranglers, you know that, you know, they're kind of roly-poly and bouncy, and on the highway, they're not the most comfortable vehicle to drive in on a long road trip. You know you've driven it all day at the end of the day. But as far as Jeep Wranglers go, this modern day JL is one of the best handling Wranglers ever, right? It's got a nice rubbery, soft suspension that's isolating from all of the rough stuff out there. And going down the road, this absorbs a lot of stuff, but it also transmits a lot of stuff because you do have a solid axle front and rear. And with that, you do lose a lot of precision in on-road at-speed handling that you're going to find in most of the unibody crossovers and unibody SUVs out there, right? That is the trade-off you choose when you get a Wrangler. That said, this roof, I love this opening canvas roof, but it is noisy. So if you're considering this, consider the trade-off. A lot of wind noise, especially on the freeway going 70 miles an hour. Ouch, okay? You better really plan to crank up this Alpine audio system, okay? Because it's noisy. But I'm just talking about stuff that it's very subjective. These are things you expect if you buy a Wrangler, but this is the best it's ever gotten, if that makes any sense at all. So on the pavement, around town, this is, for the most part, the best Wrangler you're gonna get. But off the pavement is really where the Wrangler really shines. Off the pavement here on my favorite desert washboard road is really where we can see what this thing's like to live with for most people taking trips out to go hiking, camping, things like that. We're not going to do any extreme off-roading today because this is a Jeep Wrangler. You know it can do it. I don't need to drive it up a hill or drive it over rocks to prove that to you here. Plus, I've got other videos out there you can watch that show me doing just that. Here, I want to know what this thing's like to live with. I want to know how the hybrid suspension and chassis is tuned that might be different than the regular one, that might affect what it's like to live with every day. What I can tell you, is that this thing's a lot of fun out here in the dirt. It's a Wrangler, it's supposed to be. This desert washboard road really gives me a good idea of how well bolted together this is, how well isolated the chassis and the body structure and the interior fittments are from this vibrating ribbed surface. And this road's in fine form today, I'm telling you. What I'm finding out here is this thing's pretty solid. That's what I would expect from a Wrangler. This thing's very tossable out here on these gravel corners. The one thing I am noticing though is these tires that come on this seem to be a little more biased to on-road driving than they are for off. They don't seem to have a lot of bite in the dirt and gravel. But outside of that, I'm not getting any rattling in the steering, no rattling in the suspension, nothing that would tell me this is anything less than a solid off-roader. So that's a good thing. Basically, my takeaway from my week of driving and out here in the dirt is that this Wrangler is everything you'd expect from a Wrangler and nothing less. It even comes with the trade-offs you'd expect. So chassis gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, this is the part of the video where you're going to either love me or you're going to hate me. Now, if you are a fanboy of the 4xe and maybe you own one, you're probably not going to like what I'm about to say. If you don't care about hybrids or you're skeptical of them, you might like what I have to say, but here's my truth. This thing is thirsty AF, okay? Once that battery's gone, this gets worse fuel economy than any of the gas engines, the 4-cylinder or the V6. 20 miles to the gallon, that's it. That's terrible, okay? The V6 turbo diesel, you can get up into the mid-20s, up to 30. Now, yes, fuel costs a little bit more. That makes a whole lot more sense to me if you're spending up to get to more fuel economy, okay? Because unless you plug this in every night and you drive less than 30 or 40 miles a day, this makes absolutely no financial sense at all, especially for that $11,000 uptick, or as little as a $6,000 uptick if you option it out the same, but still $6,000 for less fuel economy. Okay, that's not making sense to me. That's not financial. That's not penciling for me. And that really is the rub with a lot of plug-in hybrids out there, is the way they're designed and engineered. Most companies make them such that once that battery is dead, it goes back to hybrid mode, unless it has a strong hybrid mode, which this does not. They don't really do you any good. So if you're that person that plugs it in every night, you live in the city, you just go around the circle, and you maybe go to a short distance for work, you go to the store, you come home, you plug it back in again, you can it's almost like having an EV. But you take it to Las Vegas and back from Phoenix, and the thing sucks gas like a V8. There's no point in it at that point. So $11,000 or $6,000 over sticker for a normal one for that just does not make any sense to me. So when I look at value on this thing, that's how it plays out, guys. I'm sorry to say that. I'd spend the extra money for the Eco Diesel. I've driven that. I like it. Yes, fuel costs more, but it makes more sense every day. So there you go. 3.5 stars for value. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're at 3.5 stars for the review for the 4xe. So there you go. If you want to see the latest video I've done, maybe not so critical, right there, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.